Welcome, this is Cheating Tales Stories. Tell me where you're watching from. I heard the dirt hitting my coffin from inside, realizing my wife had paid the coroner to declare me dead. My name is Donovan, and I need to tell you about the day I died. Except I didn't. What I'm about to share with you will sound impossible, but I have the scars and the legal documents to prove every word. It started 3 months ago with chest pains, nothing dramatic, just this dull ache that wouldn't go away. My wife Celeste kept insisting I see a doctor. Donovan, you're only 34, but heart disease runs in your family, she'd say, her voice filled with what I thought was genuine concern. Please, just get it checked out. For me. I loved that woman more than my own life. We'd been married for 6 years, and she was everything to me. Beautiful, intelligent, always so caring. She worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep, which meant she was often traveling. But when she was home, she devoted all her attention to me, or so I thought. Finally, I agreed to see Dr. Hammond at Mercy General. He was supposedly one of the best cardiologists in the state, and Celeste had specifically recommended him. He's worked with my company before, she explained. I trust him completely. Dr. Hammond was a distinguished man in his 50s with silver hair and an expensive suit. After running some tests, he sat me down with a grave expression. Donovan, I'm going to be honest with you. Your EKG shows some irregularities, and your blood work indicates elevated cardiac enzymes. I think we need to do an emergency cardiac catheterization. My heart sank. Is it serious? It could be, but don't worry. We'll take excellent care of you. The procedure is routine, and you'll be home tomorrow. Celeste squeezed my hand. I'll be right here waiting for you, baby. Everything's going to be fine. The next morning, they prepped me for surgery. The last thing I remember was the anesthesiologist saying, "Count backward from 10. I made it to 7, but here's where everything went wrong. I woke up, not in a recovery room, not in a hospital bed. I woke up in complete darkness, lying on something soft, with barely enough room to move my arms. The air was stale and thin, my head was pounding, and my mouth tasted like copper. At first, I thought I was having a nightmare, but as my senses sharpened, I realized the horrible truth. I was in a coffin, a real coffin, and I could hear voices above me, distant and muffled. That's the last of it, a man's voice said. He's 6 feet under now. Good, came another voice. Dr. Hammond said the death certificate was already filed. Cardiac arrest during surgery. Tragic, but these things happen. My blood ran cold. They thought I was dead, but I was very much alive. I tried to scream, but my voice came out as barely a whisper. The drugs were still in my system, making me weak and disoriented. I managed to lift my hands and felt the silk lining of the coffin lid just inches from my face. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a mistake. But then I heard her voice, Celeste's voice, and my world completely shattered. Is it done? She asked from above. Yes, ma'am. Your husband is officially deceased. The insurance company will process the claim within 48 hours. Perfect. $2 million, just like we planned. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. My own wife, the woman I'd loved and trusted completely, had orchestrated this. She'd planned my murder. What about Dr. Hammond? Celeste asked. He'll get his cut, don't worry. $50,000 for filing the false death certificate and keeping his mouth shut. The coroner got 25 for not asking questions. Everyone's happy, except Donovan. She laughed. Actually laughed. Though I suppose he won't be complaining much longer. The voices grew fainter as they walked away, leaving me alone in my underground prison. The reality of my situation hit me like a freight train. I was buried alive, 6 feet underground, with maybe a few hours of air left, but I wasn't ready to die. Not like this. Not after learning what Celeste had done. I forced myself to think clearly despite the panic clawing at my chest. I'd seen movies where people escaped from coffins. It was possible, right? I had to try. I pressed my hands against the coffin lid, and pushed with every ounce of strength. I had nothing. It didn't budge even a millimeter. The weight of 6 feet of dirt was holding it down like a concrete slab. My breathing became rapid and shallow. I was using up my oxygen too quickly. I forced myself to calm down and think. That's when I remembered something from my construction days. Modern coffins aren't built like they used to be. They're often made of cheaper materials to save money. If I could find a weak spot, I felt around the edges of the coffin, searching for any give in the wood. Near my feet, I found what I was looking for. The bottom corner felt slightly soft, almost spongy. Water damage, maybe, or just cheap construction. I kicked at that spot with everything I had. Once, twice. On the third kick, I felt something give. A small crack appeared, letting in a tiny stream of dirt. Hope surged through me. I kept kicking, and slowly, the crack widened. Dirt began pouring in faster, but that was okay. It meant I was making progress. After what felt like hours, I'd created a hole large enough to squeeze through. But now came the terrifying part, digging my way up through 6 feet of loose soil without suffocating. I squeezed through the hole, feet first, and began the most frightening journey of my life, digging upward through dirt while lying on your back, trying not to panic as soil fills your mouth and nose. It was like swimming through hell. Several times, I almost gave up. My lungs were burning, my hands were bleeding, and every inch felt impossible. But the image of Celeste laughing about my death kept me going. I would not let her win. When my hand finally broke through the surface and felt cool night air, I almost cried with relief. I clawed my way out of that grave like a zombie in a horror movie, gasping and choking on dirt, but alive. The cemetery was empty except for the groundskeeper, as tools still sitting nearby. I staggered to the caretaker's shed and used their phone to call the police. When Detective Rodriguez arrived, she took one look at my dirt-covered, bleeding form and knew something extraordinary had happened. "Son, you look like you've literally been through hell." "I have," I croaked, "and I can prove it." The investigation that followed was like something out of a crime novel. Dr. Hammond broke down under questioning and confessed everything. Celeste had approached him months earlier with the plan. She'd researched my family's medical history, knew about the heart problems, and used that knowledge to make the fake cardiac emergency seem believable. The drug they'd given me was a powerful sedative that mimicked death, slowed my heart rate and breathing to nearly undetectable levels. To anyone not looking closely, I would appear dead. The plan was for the drug to wear off after I was buried, but by then, it would be too late. What broke my heart most was learning how long this had been planned. Celeste had been having an affair with her regional manager for over a year. They'd spent months researching insurance fraud cases, studying what went wrong in other schemes. She'd even increased my life insurance policy 8 months earlier, just to protect our future, she'd said. I'd signed the papers happily, trusting her completely. When they arrested Celeste, she showed no remorse. In fact, she seemed more angry that I'd survived than sorry for what she'd done. "You were supposed to stay dead." She spat at me during the confrontation at the police station. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused?" That's when I realized I'd never really known her at all. The woman I'd loved was a complete fabrication. Dr. Hammond got 15 years for attempted murder and insurance fraud. The coroner got 10 years for his part in filing false death certificates. Apparently, I wasn't his first victim. And Celeste, my beloved wife, got life in prison without the possibility of parole. The insurance company not only refused to pay the claim but also launched their own investigation that uncovered several other suspicious cases Dr. Hammond had been involved in. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital recovering from the physical trauma, but the emotional scars took much longer to heal. How do you trust anyone again after the person you loved most in the world tries to murder you for money? The legal settlement I received was substantial, but no amount of money can undo the betrayal. I've moved to another state, changed my name, and started over completely. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, feeling like I'm back in that coffin. The therapy helps, but I don't think I'll ever fully recover from the terror of being buried alive. The worst part isn't the physical trauma. It's knowing that while I was fighting for my life 6 feet underground, the woman I'd loved was probably already planning how to spend the insurance money. But I survived. And sometimes, survival is the greatest revenge of all. If you found this story as shocking as I did living through it, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was living a double life? Your support means everything to me as I continue to share these stories.